Oh, yes. Welcome back to You Bleeping Nerds. UBN, here where we break down, talk about, discuss, pinch over anime, animation, comic books, all that good stuff, man. Welcome back to the program, You Bleeping Nerds, UBN. I am the captain of this boat. I am the skipper. It's your boy A. It's nice to see y'all, man. Again, as always, I hope y'all eating. I hope y'all pockets fat. I hope y'all good. I hope your kids good. You know what I'm saying? It's hot where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all chilling. Because we not. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to global warming. We all gonna die. Anyway, I hope y'all good, man. I'm here to bring y'all some of these hot, fresh anime reviews, man. You know, these hot, fresh nerd reviews for these programs. We love it out here. Today, we're here to discuss that time I got reincarnated as a breast implant. As a slime. Excuse me. I apologize. The main character looks like a fake titty sometimes. I'm sorry. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Rimuru-sama. We're here to break down the latest episode, Festival Preparations. But before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know, here at You Bleeping Nerds, UBN, we do a podcast every day, or at least we try to, but we do a podcast every single day, Monday through Friday. I told you guys last episode we were going to run down our weekly schedule. I got that for y'all. We out here keeping promises here at UBN. We're going to run through our show real quick. Monday, to me, the hottest show in the world. I mean, just flat out. I mean, it's just so fire. Kaiju number 8. That's going to come every Mondays. It airs over the weekend, but we are going to cover it on Monday because who the hell listens to podcasts on a weekend? I'm sure there's billions of people who do. But you know what? That's going to be Monday. Tuesday, which is today. Again, we got that, that time I was reincarnated as a fake boob. As a implant. As a slime. Rimuru-sama. That's going to be Tuesdays until the season ends. Wednesday, we're going to check back in with the man I call our favorite magical little pervert. Rudis Grey Rat, main character of Mushoku Tensei, jobless reincarnation. You know what I mean? We're going to check back in with old Rudy Juice. See we out here. Rudy got the juice. That's why I call him that. He old Rudy Juice. You know what I'm saying? Rudy Juice got the juice, man. That's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? You can't hate on old perverted ass Rudy Juice. You know what I'm saying? He's my favorite magical little pervert. And it's working for him. You know what I'm saying? It's straight up working for him, man. Thursdays, we're going to get into a little gem we call Moonlit Fantasies, Tsukimichi. A lot of isekai, man. That's just what the game is. I don't necessarily love that, but, that's just what the game is right now, But Tsukimichi's a nice little program. We're going to get into that. And Friday, we're going to get into a little jam I call Yatagarasu. Well, I don't call that. That's what the show is called. Yatagarasu. A raven does not choose its master. I'm going to just let y'all know, this is a banger. Come check in on Friday. Yatagarasu, man. Man, oh man, Yatagarasu. That show is nice. Can't cover every show in the world, but, shout out to a few other things I'm watching. Catching up on Frieren. If you guys have finished Frieren's anime season, you guys know that it's fire. I'm still in the mix. So shout out to that. Same thing, Dungeon Meshi, Netflix jam. You know what I mean? I was going through Netflix and I saw, we could check another one off the list, guys. Rising Impact, the little golf anime that they're making. I'm just like, we could check another one off. We got badminton, darts, free running, sledding, figure skating, and now we got fucking golf. So shout out to Rising Impact. We might check into that a little bit. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about, you know what I'm saying, our silicone sama. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Rimuru. Episode's called Festival Preparations. We're going to go ahead and get into that. So, jump right into, thank you guys for, always coming in and, checking back in with me. I was really surprised at how successful the last episode was. It's because you guys, my bleeping nerds, my bleeping army, we're a bleeping force. And I appreciate you guys always coming through for us, being here with us. You know what I'm saying? We do this because you guys are here. None of this is possible without you all. But anyway, enough with all that sappy, weird shit. Let's get into it. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, festival preparations. The episode opens with Rimuru getting ready for the festival. It's been his mission basically since the end of the first season and Tempest became a thing, for Tempest to be its own sovereign force, its own sovereign nation. And the mission continues in this episode. This is a big step towards it. They're just coming off of essentially an invasion, multiple waves of invasions from other forces and entities and countries and even the church. But they've pushed all that back, and now that they are have a time of peace, they've got some treaties in place. They have all the aggression has been neutralized. They're getting into a little bit of their golden age. They're coming out party. They're stepping out, and they want to show off, Tempest to the world. And Rimuru's going to do that through a festival. So the episode opens with Rimuru basically checking around with his generals and his officials. Some of his higher-ranking members in his clan, and just going over what they're going to cover. What their panel's going to be. I call this Tempest Con. That's what he's running the convention. Basically, it's Monster Con, it's Tempest Con, and he's going around. He's trying to get the panels together. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to speak that in anime for the rest of us. Put that in a nerd for everybody else. Like, yeah, Rimuru's putting on Tempest Con. He's got to get the panels together. And shout out to all my con organizers. Y'all know what that feel like. It's not easy. Shout out to the vendors room. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. But yeah, no. He's trying to put on Tempest Con. He's going around to all his officials. Vesta and Lizard Boy. I know he has a name, but I call him Lizard Boy. I don't respect him. But Vesta, his lead country scientist, they plan on showing off their ridiculously OP healing potions that Rimuru has developed from his bowels. I mean, I know there was like magic science and people worked on all that stuff too, and I'm not trying to disrespect that, but yeah, I mean, they're selling the essence of Rimuru's bowels as a healing potion, and you know what, it works. So yeah. That's Vesta's plan. He's going to have him a panel on healing potions. He ends up going to Shuna, one of his Oni generals, Shuna, and she insists on going to Ingracia with him to help promote the festival because she wants to promote her cooking and her cuisine. And she wants to find a master. She wants to find someone she can work with in order to do that. So she follows, she gets Rimuru to take her to Ingracia with her. And they end up, meeting someone else who has been reincarnated. I made a little note here is that there are quite a few people. It's not uncommon to find other people from the same world Rimuru's from. He's a chef in this world just as he was a chef, a proprietor in the other world as well. So this is a little interesting note here that there is a direct link. It's not an uncommon or a secretive thing that people being from, our world, his world, so I just found that fascinating. But, in that part, Shuna makes him a dish. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was. I'm sure if I'm Japanese or if I watch more anime cuisine stuff, I'd be able to identify it off site. But it looked good. Looked like some type of wrap, some type of spongy itis that knocked old Chef Boy off his ass because it was fucking delicious, you know. But Shuna been doing work for 3 seasons now, so good for her. You know, obviously she got him to to accept her, so that's good. Just looking at this part 1, you know, obviously it's open up light. We're checking in with everyone. You know, we're checking in. We're preparing for a festival, man. You know, it's anime. You gotta have a party episode. Gotta have a festival. They do their damn festivals over there, and they do them goddamn right. So, you know, we're just kind of starting off, getting you back. You know, no one, Tempest isn't in peril anymore. You know what I mean? No one's trying to trap us in magical seals and murder our leader anymore. So, you know, we can throw a party now, and that's a good thing. So, you know, go ahead, moving on. Yeah, so go ahead and moving on. You know, after he leaves in Gracia, Rimuru, that guy who was reincarnated as a left boob in breast implant, he was, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop making that joke. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop making that joke. But no, he ends up going to the kingdom of Bluemon. We end up revisiting this place with our homie Mihole. Thank God I heard his name pronounced, because boy, by the spelling, who knows what the fuck that would say. But yeah, the old merchant underworld Mihole, and before Rimuru walks into his place, we find him in negotiations with a petty noble. It seems like kind of a small town noble, Kazakh. Kazakh is talking to Mihole because he wants to start a business, you know, which makes sense. You know, Mihole is a businessman. You know, he does business. Business is what he does. He's good at business, you know. But what's interesting about this business is old Kazakh boy, Kazakh boy, KK, he wants to open basically a elf slave strip club. Apparently he got a plug on elf slaves. Y'all know how that goes. You know, when you get a plug on elf slaves. You know, who among us haven't hit a lick for some elf slaves? You know, he's got a guy, apparently. And he's like, hey, man, I've got elf girl slaves. And it's like, I want to make a strip club. I want to enslave these poor slaves who are elves. And I want to make a strip club. And, you know, maybe a little more clubs, you know what I'm saying? Maybe we might have a champagne room. You know what I'm saying? If you know what I'm saying. Shout out to Chris Pine. You know, so we might have a champagne room. And Miholi wasn't having it. He's like, no. First off, like, bro, slaves, what are we doing? Like, he's not the kind of cat I can work with. He's not the kind of guy I can work with. So, you know, but Mihole, I think it's interesting about his character is that his inner dialogue and his outer dialogue are always very different. I think it's always interesting to note when Mihole is, because outward he's always very jovial. He's always very forthcoming and friendly, but you can see, you know, he's a very intelligent man. He's a very wise man, resourceful, and he knows how to put up a front, even among someone like nobles and things like that. And you see, before Rimuru walks into the room, he is thinking about ways to let down Kazakh. Decently gentle, like obviously he still does business with Kazakh, so he wants to maintain that relationship to some degree. But, you know, he's not about that slave. He's not here to enslave people. And good for Mihole. So, you know, he's trying to find a tactful way out of the scenario, but that doesn't have to happen because Rimuru, our hero, he shows up. barges wide into the room because he's a demon lord. Why the fuck wouldn't he? Rimuru shows up, and Rimuru obviously gets the attention immediately of Kazek and Mihole, and Kazek being a jerk, a little noble as nobility can be at times. He, obviously he's going after him. He tries to like pimp him out. You know what I'm saying? He tries to lay down that Mac game to Rimuru. It's like, hey, baby, say your face pretty. You know what I'm saying? You come make some real motherfucking money. You know what I'm saying? Kazak's about that pimping life. You see that immediately. He's trying to get his money. Trying to get his money how he lives, apparently, But anyway, Mihole's insulted by this. Kicks him out. Really just uses this as an excuse to get rid of Kazak. He's a scumbag. Tells Rimuru like, hey man, I'll deal with that guy. You ain't even got to deal with. He light work to me. I'm the Don of the underworld. You can go ahead and get rid of that guy. I got this. But what do you want? And from there, Rimuru basically begins to lay down his plans for the future for Tempest. They begin their conversation talking about Rimuru wants to open a fast food chain. Burgers, fries, soft drinks, things like that. This idea excites Mihole. He wants to, these are two things, like I call them, they're brothers in greed. You know what I'm saying? They're blood brothers in greed. Like they know how to make money. They want to make money. In the last episode, Rimuru stated openly, he was drunk, but he stated that he wants to turn Tempest into a financial hub. That is his goal. He wants to turn Tempest, and Tempest Con is how he's going to do this. He wants to turn Tempest into a communication, financial, and tourist hub for the other nations, making it extremely profitable, extremely valuable, extremely powerful as a sovereign nation of monsters. So, you see the ingenious deviousness here of Rimuru in play. And this is right up Mihole's alley, obviously, being a merchant himself, a greedy, grubby man himself. He's like, hey, I like this. We can serve meat sticks and rice balls also, right? People will come for that. And this is kind of the tip of the iceberg of their conversations, because Rimuru begins to lay out his plans for Tempest, where he explains to Mihole that he doesn't just want the restaurants. Obviously he wants the restaurants, but he wants, he lays out his vision for turning Tempest into a resort town. And restaurants are a part of that, but he lays out parts of his vision when he says that he wants hunting, he wants other activities, exploring, tours of the nation and the Jura forest around it, and he begins to really lay down and encapsulize for Mihole all the scope of what he's trying to do, and ultimately the vision for it. And I really enjoyed this conversation between the two characters. There's not a lot of action in this episode really at all, but I enjoy it still, because I think this is an example of how, like, while Rimuru has this life in this new world, and he's been through, we're 3 seasons and we're 60 episodes in, exactly in this episode. This is episode overall 60. I think it's interesting to see that, who he was in his life previously. He was a salaryman supervisor. He was a supervisor at a company in a business. And to see his mind in the way that he sees the world still, you see the world we're from kind of bleeding into Rimuru. into Rimru's world and how he approaches things, and it's capitalism. Like you see his ideas of capitalism coming to fruition. This is just another example, a last episode where he finally got Vesta to get the magical device that absorbs magicules, so they can have, mobile magical devices and shields and more magical technology that doesn't require you to cast on your own. He explained again when he was drunk, expanding the the magic communication system in Tempest, allowing people to communicate over long distances instantly, very similar, obviously, to our telephone network, to our telenetwork. And I think it's interesting to watch the parallels and how his instincts drive him in this completely different world than ours, and how that really benefits him. And who loves it? Fucking Mihole. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can see the hard chubs these guys got, running through the cacophony of things they want to do. Apparently Mihole's a UFC fan. You know what I'm saying? Shout out the UFC. But no, he brought up the tournaments that are in Yggdrasil, in the arena, and that, obviously brought forth the idea from Rimuru that he wanted a coliseum that was 50,000 seats strong. In comparison, the one in Yggdrasil was only about 20,000 seats. It's very small, inclusive. And it said, no, he wants to open it up to the general populace. He wants to make it as profitable as possible. He wants to make it as enticing as possible. They went as far to talk about, hunting and selling weapons to the tourist adventurers who show up. They went as far to talk about, selling concessions and premium seating and things like that. Very modern capitalistic ideas that these two men were gushing over in this particular part of the episode. And, all of this is really just kind of to lay down what, Rimuru's vision is for Tempest. And what this, Tempest Con, this festival in the Jura Forest that they're going to put on, what they aim to accomplish. And it just shows the leadership of Rimuru, where, the scope and intensity of his leadership, to where, he's planning on the future, long past really anyone in the village is thinking of. Obviously having the perspective from our world and things like that helps, but it really does encapsulate, a leader has to have vision. A leader has to have, an idea of where we're going to go, and really that can make the difference of a leader, and he's showing it now. He's been a good leader this whole time, and we're kind of seeing why he's a good leader. It's because he has this vision. And, Mihole is absolutely, enticed and enthralled by him. So, he's a fan. He's a big fan. But no, moving on, the end of the episode kind of begins with Mihole suggesting to use the tournament as in advertising for the healing potions. You can essentially fight to the death knowing that these potions are, going to heal any kind of mortal wounds outside of actually getting your head decapitated from your body. He has that idea. He runs that by Rimuru, something Rimuru loves. And it's just another example of how both of these men, working together, they really plan on making Tempest a profitable venture and really creating industry and capitalism and just business in general in Tempest. And that's really the focus of this episode. They're really soulmates in greed. Rimuru and Mihole are really soulmates in greed. Mihole brings up gambling on the tournament as another revenue stream. Again, brilliant. I think that's another brings a parallel to our life right now in sports gambling. Obviously being able to gamble on basically fucking everything nowadays. Um, it's essentially the theme of the entire episode. The point of this festival and all the promotion coming up is to promote Tempest to an economical powerhouse in the region that it's in. And I'm very curious to see how that's going to end up. You saw the mafia family in previous episodes bring this up, that they anticipated this, and this is why they've been trying to kill Rimuru from the start. Grandmaster Yuki, who is a secret op. They don't know that, but he a op. He a secret op. This is something he's brought up, to where like we have to stop Tempest from dominating technologically, dominating economically. And in this episode is kind of illustrating why, how far Rimuru wants to go, and the ripple effects that'll send through all the different kingdoms' economies, and then from that, the potential political ramifications from that. Like when a powerhouse shows up militarily and economically like that, everything's gonna be flipped up. Certain merchants who are eaten because of a particular circumstance or agreement, they might be just totally cut out. Their goods and their technology might be inferior to whatever Rimuru and his science team cooks up. They might be, your only choice to prosper may be to join Tempest. And that's the scenario all these ancillary forces are trying to avoid. And, this is the exact scenario that Rimuru is trying to create, and to top it all off at the end of the episode, he asks Mihole, Rimuru requests that Mihole find some excuse to move to Tempest, to become a subject of Rimuru and become a citizen of Tempest, kind of as his coup de grace of his grand offer of this episode to Mihole. And the way I interpret that is that it seems like this was the goal all along for Rimuru, is to kind of lay down all these sweet little treats in front of Mihole, and have all these business dealings. But it seems to me at the end the goal was to really that I want you in my service, I want you in my country, because these are all the things that I want you to be in charge of and to run on the day-to-day and lay the infrastructure, the foundation, financially, things for like commerce and even certain political connections. So very shrewd of Rimuru, when you take a step back and examine, what his actual goal of this meeting was and what he got accomplished today. And obviously Mihole accepts, he, huge fan. He's a fan. He's a fan of Rimuru. Got that Jesus painting in his office of Rimuru saving them, I think, back at the end of season 1. It might have been season 2, but I think it was season 1. So that's essentially the end of the episode of episode overall 60, festival preparation of that time I got reincarnated as a breast implant. As a slime, excuse me. And, final thoughts on it. Summation. Not a ton of action. But I don't think it was an inconsequential episode. I think the exposition that was laid down in this episode, I think, is, to me, kind of the skeleton of a lot of the character development that happens in the show, to where you see where Rimuru's mind's pointed to. You see where he's guiding his followers to. You see Rimuru essentially recruiting another follower for more of his machinations. And you see, there is a forthrightness, there's a passion to Rimuru, but there's also a underhandedness, a deviousness. He's a fantastic negotiator, from his experience, I would imagine, in business in his previous life. So he always approaches things with a joyousness, a harmlessness, but all you have to do is take a quick little step back and kind of notice what he's really after, and you can see his deviousness. He is a demon lord after all. You see his deviousness. He's the main character and he's a nice guy, but make no mistake, Rimuru's here to take over the fucking world. That's what he's here to do. And he'll be nice about it, but you can see by all his moves, politically, economically, Rimuru's here to take over the fucking world. You know what I mean? And I feel that because we're here at UBN, we're here to take over the fucking world. And thank you guys. That's going to be the end of our review of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, episode overall 60, festival preparations. Check in with us tomorrow while, we break down the man I call my favorite magical little pervert, Rudis Gray Rat. Oh, Rudy Juice. We're going to break down, the latest, the newest, the freshest episode of Mashuko Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. We gonna see what old Rudy Juice is up to. Check in with our boy. If you're caught up on the anime right now, it's tough for old Rudy Juice. It's real tough. Like, he got his dick back, but he lost something much more important. And we're going to get into that tomorrow. But like I said at the top, we do a podcast every day here at You Bleepin' Nerds UBN. We do one every single day. Mondays, it's almost over, but on Mondays, it's going to be, to me, the hottest anime in the world, hottest jam in the world, Kaiju number 8. Tuesdays, today's days, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Oh, great Rimuru. Wednesdays, as I said, Mashuko Tensei. Check in with our favorite magical little pervert. Thursday, a little jam we call Suki Michi, Moonlit Fantasy. Not everybody might be into that, but I think it's pretty good. A lot of isekai in our life, and we'll get into that. I don't love that, but it's pretty good. And Fridays, Yatagarasu. Beautiful, beautiful piece of work. Every raven doesn't get to choose his master. And you know what? I might change that because we might have to do Demon Lord. I might change that to Demon Lord on Thursday over Tsukimichi, but I'll check. I'll let you guys know by tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? We'll change anything here at You Bleepin' Nerds, UBN. But thank you guys for checking in as always. All 4 of you. You guys are beautiful, all 4 of you. You quartet of beauties. Thank you for checking into UBN. I am the captain of this boat. I am the skipper. Your boy A. Your time is much appreciated. I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.